Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Trilbee and welcome to my review of the 2017/18 Best Picture winner, The Shape of Water, directed by Guillermo del Toro with a screenplay written by del Toro and also Vanessa Taylor. The Shape of Water takes place in the early 1960s at the height of the Cold War and follows Eliza, played by Sally Hawkins. She is a mute woman who works as a cleaning lady at a secret government facility in Baltimore, along with her co-worker Zelda, played by Octavia Spencer. One day at the facility, a man-amphibious fish-like creature, played by Doug Jones, arrives to be tortured and studied and dissected in an operation led by Colonel Richard Strickland, played by Michael Shannon. However, Eliza begins to share a very special bond with the creature and will try to save it whatever it takes. Now, The Shape of Water has been Guillermo del Toro's passion project for many years. Not only did he turn down Pacific Rim Uprising in order to direct this thing, but this was also something he initially pitched to Universal when they wanted him to direct a remake of The Creature from the Black Lagoon. And with almost anything that Guillermo del Toro involves himself with, the project is passionate, it's full of emotion, it's full of subtext, it's full of incredible performances and great visuals and a striking aesthetic, and it's a fantastic movie. Just for full disclosure, I watched this movie about 3 or 4 days before it won Best Picture. This is not me jumping on a bandwagon. The Shape of Water is a brilliant and beautiful movie, and in my opinion, I think it's actually the Best Picture winner in about 15 years since Lord of the Rings: Return of the King. I'm not saying it's the best movie nominated in that category, but in my opinion, it is the best winner of the prize since Return of the King. And that's because The Shape of Water feels like a complete package film. I don't really think there's one singular element that I can really hone in on as to why this movie excels so much. The performances are absolutely amazing. I love Sally Hawkins. Sally Hawkins is often one of the best things in any movie that she's in, even if the role is pretty small, like the Paddington movies or X+Y. Heck, I gave her a Trilbee Award for Best Supporting Actress back in 2013 for her role in Blue Jasmine, and I also gave Guillermo del Toro Best Director for Pacific Rim, which he has now won at the Oscars, so it took several years for the Oscars to do what the Trilbee Awards did 5 years ago. Sally Hawkins has to do so much with this role because Eliza is a mute. She has to communicate almost primarily through her expressions and sign language, and there is one sequence where she does let out some noises. I'm not going to say what it is, and it sounds dodgy, but it's not. But it's one of the most heart-wrenching sequences I've seen all year. It's a terrific and wonderfully flamboyant sequence, and I loved everything about it. It was so weird, and I couldn't quite believe what I was watching, but I loved every frame of it. Michael Shannon was great as Strickland, and while I think he's definitely getting quite typecast as a villain after Premium Rush or Man of Steel and all these other films where he has played a villainous role, it's still a part he can play with his eyes closed, and he's reveling the opportunity as well. There's some really great gross out sequences with the character, and Shannon, he is a go big or go home type of person. And you've also got some great supporting characters with Richard Jenkins, Michael Stuhlbarg and Octavia Spencer, and while their characters are kind of variations of what we've seen before, much like Michael Shannon, this is still a very well executed version of those character archetypes. I don't know if personally I would have nominated Jenkins or Spencer for their supporting actor and actress categories, but they're still great performances. Doug Jones brings an incredible physicality to this amphibious man, and Doug Jones is a very physical performer, and he's a great actor as well. We've seen in Star Trek Discovery and all these other roles he's done, and he brings great humanity to this character through his body language. But you believe the story as well. It's a great love story. This is a story about Eliza and this amphibious fish man falling in love, and it could have gone so weird or so badly, but del Toro makes it work. He makes you believe the romance. And that's because the subtext in this film is so prominent. You have these outcasts of society, these people who are underestimated by their peers, whether it's Richard Jenkins' character being prejudiced because of his sexuality or Octavia Spencer because she's a woman of colour. You have these people who have been beaten down by society and they're not going to take it anymore. And while they can't exactly rise up in a big violent revolution, they're going to rely on their love of each other and their love of this creature to try and win the day. It's a really heartwarming story. I also hugely admire the production of this film as well. It didn't even cost $20 million to make, but it looks double or triple that easy. As is to be expected with a del Toro film, the sets are really well designed, they're vibrant and colourful, and the imagery is striking. The Cold War era is brilliantly recreated here. The cinematography by Dan Lawston and the music by Alexander Desplat brings a brilliant fairy tale quality to the proceedings. And I can't quite put my finger on it. I think it's the way that this movie was put together or shot or something by Del Toro that makes me feel like he poured his entire heart and essence into this film. And I've loved everything he's done from Crimson Peak, Pacific Rim or Hellboy 2 and Hellboy, but I've not quite felt this vibe from a film of his since Pan's Labyrinth in 2006. There are still elements in here that feel quintessentially Del Toro, like a diverse cast, like monsters and body horror and a fixation on music and pop culture from the era, but it still feels accessible because love is a universal theme, and this is such a fitting film and such a fitting metaphor to get across that theme. If I did have an issue with the film, I think it's about 5 or 10 minutes too long, and even though the supporting cast are really good, I do feel like these are archetypes and the main focus of the film is on Eliza and the Fishman. Also, there's some Cold War espionage which feels kind of been here, done that, and kind of detracts from the rest of the film in my opinion. But still, those are absolutely nitpicks. I loved The Shape of Water, a movie about love, and I really hope you guys enjoyed it as well. Please let me know what you thought about it in the comment section below. But as for me, I am giving The Shape of Water 4.5 stars out of 5. Hey folks, thanks so much for watching this video, and oh my goodness, who are these names? Who are these awesome, really cool people? Well, they are my patrons. They help to keep the lights on here at Trilbee Reviews. They get early access to some of my content and also including my podcast, the Film Brits podcast. They also get to be a part of the podcast by asking questions and submitting topics and such. So if you would like to help support the content and also get involved in the podcast and other videos and also get your names in the credits like these handsome devils, then please consider becoming a patron. Links in the description below.